to say all of Andrew C's could get cut. Like, who are you?
Oh my God.
Are you Disney? What is the premise? What is the story?
It's a love story.
So your character, Jonathan, is new. How does he fit into the story?
All of Andrew's scenes could get cut. Who knows?
Who the hell are?
This is not like the traditional Prince Charming and
Tell
tights.
by the hair.
Yeah, the hair. Right. He's kind of scruffy.
Yeah,
he has a hoodie.
Last week was a very big week, objectively a huge week. We had quite a few announcements. It's first live-action film, which is Snow White and the Evil Queen. And that's me. I'm Snow White, which is so funny.
Andrew Burnap, co-star in Disney's live-action Snow White, has allegedly pointed fingers at Rachel Zegler for the drastic changes in the film's storyline. This revelation comes amidst the film's disappointing box office performance and a series of controversies that have plagued its release. Disney's attempt to modernize the classic Snow White tale.
No one on the right side of America can stand the star of this movie. Oh my God.
There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her. Weird.
I wanted my money back. It was very disappointing.
Who wants a movie about true love? What kind of woman do we want out there seeking true love, Eliana? The outrage
has been met with mixed reactions. The film, starring Rachel Zegler as Snow White and Andrew Burnap as Jonathan, deviated significantly from the original 1937 narrative, aiming to present a more contemporary version of the story. Andrew Burnap's alleged comments suggest that Rachel Zegler influenced the direction of the film, leading to significant alterations in the storyline.
Rachel Zegler is extraordinarily woke, but she's woke in a way that's quite deranged.
The new Disney boss babe, who is Rachel Zegler, the inverse of...
It's got extra musical numbers that are incredibly unnecessary that really add to that runtime, and let me go ahead and let you know that they're absolutely f***ing atrocious.
And you know the saying, go woke, get broke, and Disney's going to lose money on this movie, and I believe it only made less than $1 million.
Controversy in Snow White. The dwarves have been eliminated in the live action.
Yeah.
Now it's Snow White and the 7 magical beings.
Wait, it's 7 and the magical beings?
Yeah,
they won't even
7
say
magical
and the 7
beings.
dwarves?
No, because they're not dwarves. For right now, that's the only jobs that are there.
This has raised questions about the decision-making process behind the remake and the extent of Zegler's involvement in shaping the narrative. Rachel Zegler has been vocal about her views on the original Snow White, describing it as weird and criticizing the portrayal of Prince Charming as a stalker. Her comments have sparked debates about the necessity and execution of modernizing classic tales. If there's one thing that has kept Rachel Zegler's name in the headlines almost as much as the Snow White disaster itself, it's Rachel Zegler. Not the movie, not the performance, but her.
Lines that they say, like magic mirror on the wall. It was a lot of fun. Broke out with this news, and I'm very, very, very excited and looking forward.
So she comes off as an insufferable, whiny brat.
It's awful, generic. Never mind that the lyrics make no sense at all. All you have to do to make your dream come true is let it echo. Is it like on a metaphor?
Into this, the first villain Disney ever had. It's really getting myself into this big crown.
Her own words, her attitude, her constant need to speak her mind, no matter how much it's blowing up in her face. Because here's the thing, Rachel didn't just promote the movie, she used every press junket, every red carpet, and every interview as a stage for what many felt was an exhausting stream of self-righteous hot takes. She wasn't talking about the magic of Disney. She wasn't hyping up the fairy tale fans loved. Instead, she was out here calling the original Snow White weird, bashing the prince as a stalker.
Rachel Zegler, like so many kids raised on TikTok, she's all for infantata is the only global solution.
Disney deleted Someday My Prince Will Come and made a modernized feminist alternative.
They say all you have to do to make your wish come true is let it echo, 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 echo.
So apparently, according to them and according to the writers of Snow White, women can't even want to be in love anymore.
I sat through the whole thing. This was really bad. It was extremely leftist on every political dimension. Racial politics, sexual politics, class politics, regime politics. Its narrative was cowardly. It was just awful.
And going on about how this movie was going to correct the mistakes of the past, she made it crystal clear. She thought the classic story was beneath her. And that's where she lost people. It's one thing to have opinions. It's another thing to roll your eyes at the very thing you were hired to celebrate. Fans weren't impressed. They were furious. Parents, Disney lovers, even the casual movie-going audience felt like Rachel wasn't honoring the role.
This is just so typical of the left. The progressives always finding a way to find their way back to doing something not progressive.
Queen, playing the evil queen. It was pretty amazing.
They spent $170 million to make the thing, and it had the lowest opening, under $50 million, of any of these live-action Disney remakes that they've ever had.
Instead, she seemed to be mocking it. And in a business built on audience connection, that's the fastest way to lose the crowd. But Zegler didn't stop there. Oh no, if anything, she doubled down. Her social media presence became a firestorm of clapbacks, sarcastic comments, and thinly veiled shots at critics. Every time someone pointed out the backlash, Rachel met them with defensiveness instead.
Hardcore. They're petrified of some kind of backlash.
Part of the first, fairy tale ever told.
Have they ever thought about maybe like a little bit of vulnerability study, opposition research, that sort of thing before you go and hire some Zoomer who's a lunatic?
Now, I'm guessing that she's not married. I'm guessing that she doesn't have kids. The movie is a complete disaster, by the way.
Of grace. No acknowledgement, no reflection, just more fuel on the fire. And let's not forget the political rants sprinkled in between. Rachel's outspoken takes on hot-button issues. Right or wrong, only added gasoline to an already out-of-control situation. For some fans, these comments felt like an unnecessary distraction from the movie. For others, it was the final nail in the coffin. She wasn't just talking about the film anymore, she was making everything about herself. The result? A career moment that could have been her Cinderella story became a PR nightmare. And instead of softening the backlash, Rachel's tone-deaf social media activity made her the face of what critics called everything wrong with the remake. Even neutral audiences, people who had no strong feelings either way about the film, started to view her as arrogant and out of touch. Producers, casting directors, industry insiders, they pay attention to this stuff. Hollywood may be loud on social media, but behind closed doors, the talk is different. Words like unprofessional, hard to work with, and PR risk, allegedly, started floating around casting meetings. Because when the backlash gets bigger than the project, nobody wants to sign up for that headache. There were even whispers that Disney execs were caught off guard by just how bad the optics were getting. Internally, the studio was reportedly frustrated, not just by the film's failure, but by how much of the damage was self-inflicted. Every viral clip of Rachel rolling her eyes, every TikTok dragging her interviews, every Twitter thread tearing her apart, it all kept the controversy alive. Instead of focusing on the movie, the conversation became about her. Rachel Zegler versus the audience. Rachel Zegler versus the fans. Rachel Zegler versus the critics. And when you pick a fight with your own audience, you better hope you have the box office numbers to back it up. Spoiler alert, she didn't. At the end of the day, Rachel's biggest problem wasn't the bad reviews or the weak script. It was Rachel herself. And as much as she might want to blame haters or online trolls, the truth is simple. She handed them the ammo. Every time she opened her mouth, the backlash got louder. And in an industry where perception is everything, that's the kind of reputation you just can't afford. It's one thing for a movie to flop, it's another thing entirely for a movie to implode on the scale that Disney's live-action Snow White just did. And make no mistake, this wasn't just a little box office stumble. This was a full-blown, high-profile faceplant that left Disney red-faced and scrambling for damage control. Let's talk numbers. This film wasn't cheap. Reports placed the budget somewhere north of $200 million once you factor in production. Costs, marketing, reshoots, and promotional campaigns that stretched across global markets. Disney went all in on this one, betting hard that audiences would show up for the studio's latest Princess reboot. But the gamble didn't just fail, it exploded right in their faces. Opening weekend numbers? Brutal. Domestic box office totals came in way below projections, and international markets didn't even come close to saving the day. And here's the thing, Disney banked on this being their next billion-dollar princess juggernaut. They expected Frozen numbers. Instead, they got flop of the year headlines. Industry insiders are calling it one of Disney's biggest financial disasters in recent memory, right up there with other notorious misfires like John Carter and The Lone Ranger. But unlike those projects, Snow White carried the weight of a legacy property behind it, a story that generations of audiences knew and loved. The studio thought that nostalgia would do the heavy lifting, but nostalgia couldn't save this mess. Why? Because audiences weren't buying what they were selling. The radical rewrite of the classic tale, stripping out the love story, rebranding the dwarfs, tossing aside the traditional narrative in favor of what many felt was a preachy, heavy-handed modern update, completely alienated the core fan base. Parents weren't bringing their kids. Fans of the original weren't interested. Even casual moviegoers seemed turned off by the bad press swirling around the film long before it ever hit theaters. And let's be real, the press wasn't just bad, it was relentless. From Rachel Zegler's viral interview clips dismissing the original film as weird and calling the prince a stalker, to constant social media backlash over the casting choices and storyline changes, the movie became a lightning rod for controversy. Instead of building excitement, every new headline seemed to push audiences further away. The result? A global box office performance so dismal that recovery feels impossible. The film hasn't even sniffed the break-even point, and with Disney's hefty marketing spend factored in, some analysts are calling this a $300 million hole the studio may never crawl out of. And that's just the short-term hit. The ripple effects are already being felt across Disney's live-action division. Insiders claim other planned reboots are being reevaluated in the wake of Snow White's failure. Merchandising partners have allegedly pulled back on tie-in products after seeing disappointing pre-orders and Halloween costume sales. Parents just weren't buying Snow White dresses this year, and that says everything. It's a devastating blow for a company that has built its empire on the back of these legacy princess stories. And what makes it worse is that the damage feels so avoidable. Instead of giving audiences the magical, escapist fairy tale they wanted, Disney delivered a lecture disguised as a movie, and people walked away. Bottom line, this wasn't just a box office bomb. This was a catastrophic misread of what audiences actually care about. And as the financial losses pile up, it's clear that the Snow White remake will go down not as a bold reimagining, but as one of the costliest mistakes in Disney history. The fallout from the Snow White disaster hasn't just stayed confined to the box office, it's following Rachel Zegler like a dark cloud over every move she makes. And let's be honest, Hollywood has a short memory for success, but a long one for scandals. Once that difficult to work with label sticks, it's hard to scrape off. Just ask any number of actors who were once the next big thing, but fell out of favor faster than a streaming show cancellation. Now here's where it gets even messier. Rachel's big follow-up project, the stage production of Evita, was supposed to be her chance to remind everyone why she was even cast as Snow White in the first place. It was positioned as her comeback, the moment where she'd silence the critics, step back into the spotlight, and show off the talent that first put her on the map. But according to reports, the exact opposite happened. Ticket sales have been embarrassingly low. We're talking about empty seats night after night, despite all the buzz that normally surrounds a production of this caliber. Word on the street is that theater insiders are already whispering about the Zegler effect, a fear that attaching her name to a project right now is a financial risk no one wants to take. And when you're dealing with the theater world, where box office buzz is everything, that's a career killer. But the real kicker? This isn't just about one show underperforming. This is about the industry looking at Rachel and asking, is she worth the headache? Directors, producers, casting agents, they talk. And what they're allegedly saying isn't pretty. Between the constant headlines, the tone-deaf interviews, and the viral social media clips of her shading not just the original Snow White, but its entire fan base, Zegler has quickly gone from Hollywood darling to industry liability. Some casting agents are allegedly avoiding even putting her name forward for family-friendly or high-stakes projects right now. Insurance costs reportedly spike when her name is attached to a production, a major red flag that's hard to ignore. One insider was even quoted saying, "She needs a quiet indie hit to salvage this," but no one's sure if she can keep her mouth shut long enough to pull it off. So, with Evita flopping and the Snow White mess still fresh in everyone's minds, Rachel Zegler's career feels like it's hanging by a thread. And unless she pulls off some kind of miraculous reinvention or finds a way to genuinely win back public goodwill, the future's not looking so bright for Hollywood's former golden girl. The situation surrounding the Snow White remake has officially become Hollywood's latest cautionary tale, a messy reminder that not every classic needs a bold rewrite, especially when the person leading the charge seems more focused on stirring the pot than telling the story. What started as Disney's big, shiny attempt to modernize a beloved fairy tale ended up collapsing under the weight of bad press, clashing egos, and a lead actress who couldn't seem to get out of her own way. Now, with Andrew Burnap allegedly Pointing the finger directly at Rachel Zegler for the behind-the-scenes chaos and storyline changes, the narrative feels locked in. The backlash wasn't just about the creative choices, it was about how those choices were delivered, defended, and downright pushed onto an audience that never asked for them. And the box office receipts? Brutal confirmation that the fans weren't buying what they were selling. The industry is watching. Studios are quietly taking notes, because if there's one thing Hollywood hates more than bad headlines, it's losing money. And this Snow White disaster, it checked both boxes. So as the dust settles, don't be surprised if the next round of princess reboots comes with fewer soapboxes and a little more respect for the source material.